All right. I would like to call to order the Public Safety Committee for Thursday, March 17th. Welcome, everybody. First item is public comment. Is there anybody who wishes to address the Public Safety Committee? I see one person here. Why don't I move the microphone down to the end of the table? You have certainly lots of experience speaking to the legislature, so you know the 3 minutes. Okay, I will time.
Good afternoon. Robert Lynch, 175 Gray Road, Town of Enfield. I'm a member of the Enfield Town Board. I'm appearing here today in another role I have, which is a member of ABIR, the Advisory Board on Indigent Representation. And we drafted a resolution that was adopted in January and reaffirmed at our meeting just a week or two ago, which is on your agenda for today. I presume that Lance Salisbury will talk in detail later in the meeting about it, but it would be recommending the state change a section of law, which is Article 18B, regarding fees paid to assigned counsel. They are woefully inadequate. They have not kept up with inflation. They have not changed in a number of years. And they, to a certain extent, put the criminal defendant at a disadvantage compared to the prosecution. Because whereas assistant district attorneys make a lot more if you prorate their salary per hour than assigned counsel does. Since they make a lot more, you're probably going to get better representation for the state than for the criminal defendant. And we think it's just a matter of fairness that these rates be increased, and the resolution we have on the table today would have the state, not the locality, pay that difference, that increase in the amount of compensation. I'll leave it there. I'm sure Lance will offer a lot more, but we on ABIR felt passionate about it, that we brought it up at 2 separate meetings and affirmed it at 2 separate meetings. And we certainly hope that you will pass this on to the full legislature today. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Just note my own experience many years ago doing assigned counsel when the rates were $25 out of court and $40 in court. We're due for an update again. I mean, they were raised once, but yeah. Okay. Any other individuals wish to address the Public Safety Committee? Okay. Any changes to the agenda? Nothing to be added? No? Okay. We have minutes from February 17th, 2022. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes? Yes. Veronica moves, Henry seconds. Any questions or comments on the minutes? Are we ready to vote? See, Henry.
Yes.
Travis.
Yes.
Veronica.
Yes.
Yes.
Michael, yes. And the chair votes yes. All right. Chair's report. I have a report. In fact, what I have is a book report. This is a book I got for Christmas, and I would recommend it to everybody here. It's called American Kingpin. It is about a young man of great promise. He was very bright, did very well in school, went to Penn State, but he decided that the libertarian philosophy was totally right. And he taught himself how to code computers and built a website on what's called the dark web and started selling drugs very, very successfully and using cryptocurrency to get paid. And if you have any interest in the dark web or cryptocurrency or what's basically happening with the sale of drugs in our country, this book reads like a fiction novel. It starts out with what he did, but then it tracks the police agencies that tried to catch him and the tremendous efforts made to track him down. I highly recommend it. A real page turner. Anyway, that's my book report. So other than that, I have nothing further on the chair's report. I see that.
I didn't know that your pen name was
Nick Bolton. That's
Nick Bilton. I wish I'd written this book. It is really a page. It's just great.
It's a page turner.
Page turner. Next up, County Administration. I see Lisa's with us. Welcome.
Hi, thank you, Rich. I don't have a book report. However, I would turn it over to our Community Justice Center Director, Mona Lita Smiley, for a brief report on reimagining public safety.
Thanks, Lisa. Good afternoon, everybody. Just some updates on what we're working on. So the TJC Advisory Board, we are actually at the point where we're wrapping things up, and we should be on target to present to public safety in either April or May. We are currently conducting internal meetings for the alternative response recommendation. The community healing plan is underway with the BIPOC, Black and Brown community, and we're meeting early next week with law enforcement to map out their healing sessions and how they would like to see them go. And then last but not least is the unarmed response to sheriff clerk position. Derek and Jen and Deanna are here with us also. They had a lot of applicants, about 85 of them. They went through the screening and they're actually doing interviews right now, but I can let Sheriff Osborne give any update on that he'd like to share.
Did you?
Yeah, thanks, Mona. Yeah, Rich, we didn't quite make it over to the meeting, but we're right next door.
I see that.
I didn't forget our meeting after the meeting, so we could still walk over after that, but we've literally been doing interviews since 11 a.m. and we just finished with those 87, and we're down to about 10 that we're going to move forward to face-to-face interviews, which will happen in the next week or two.
Okay, great news. Okay. Any questions or comments for Mona or Derek? Okay, seeing none. Thank you. Let's see, the next up, anything further from County Administration, Lisa?
Oh, no, that'll do it. Thanks, Rich.
Okay. And I think we have a special guest star today. Arel Lamaro is with us from Facilities, and we asked him to come in and give us an update on the current work that's being done at the jail. So, Arel, welcome.
Arel, I'll try to get in touch with him. He gave this report earlier this morning at the F&I committee, and I know that he's prepared to share his update.
I see he just came off mute, so he's there.
Hello.
Hi, Arel.
There you go. You're on mute, Arel.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
Now we can hear you.
Okay, I've got two laptops going, and so that's why I was getting feedback. So I did a brief presentation this morning to the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee on the Public Safety Building Short-Term Improvements Project. And so I will actually have added more information to this presentation because at least the Facilities and Infrastructure has been more aware of the project in this committee. So what I'll do now is share my screen so I can include. Is everyone able to see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a summary of the improvements planned for the public safety building this year. And I've grouped them into the categories that the contractors, we have 3 contractors that are submitting proposals to us that we expect to get by next week. And so it's general work, HVAC and plumbing, which is under the mechanical contractor, and then electrical work. As you can see, the majority of the work is in that general work category, and then a little less in your mechanical, and then electrical is probably the smallest as far as cost. And then I've had a summary of those improvements. I won't go through all of them, but in the general work, those scope items that stand out are we are converting The existing holding cell, there's only one in the correction side into 3 separate holding cells. That's been a need for many years, and especially now that they have the centralized arraignment at that building that allows the corrections to hold some of those individuals prior to going before magistrates or the judges. We're also doing a lot of improvements in the existing kitchen, replacing the ceiling, doing some work for their cooler, a grease trap that's being replaced. The current grease trap we had to replace about 3 years ago. Rather than jackhammering the floor to the kitchen, we put in a temporary grease trap, knowing that we would be doing a project in the very near future. So that grease trap right now, they have to empty out every 28 days. And if it doesn't, it overflows. So we're replacing that with an outside underground grease trap that will go for 3 months, if not longer. We're doing security ceiling replacements throughout the building, not everywhere. They're partial, but only where it's needed the most. They're original ceilings, so they're 36 years old. We are doing some flooring as well, replacement. It's vinyl composition tile throughout. So most areas in pretty good condition, but those areas that require replacement, we're doing that. Staff areas, so where you have the Ray Bunce and other staff offices, we're replacing carpeting that's over 20 years old. In their briefing room, we're replacing flooring and ceiling tiles there. Some improvements in their bathroom areas, either changing out fixtures in the staff bathrooms.
Arel, are you speaking?
It looks like his computer is frozen.
Okay. Well, Lisa, you attended F&I this morning?
I did. I probably couldn't go into these repairs as in depth as he could, but you have in front of you the summary of improvements. And
yeah, I had a general question of, is it possible to do these with the current population?
Yes.
Without moving people out of the jail. We don't have to board people out to get this done, do we?
Derek and Jen, could you speak to that?
Yeah, a little bit. I know Ray has had to work out a plan in detail and get it approved by the commission. And as far as I know, that went through without a hitch. I don't believe we're boarding out. I think they are able to do work in certain areas of the jail at certain times and adjust accordingly.
The only thing that will completely shut down at some point is the kitchen, and we've made arrangements to contract out to make sure, we're getting, 3 square meals a day.
And that's what my understanding from F&I this morning was, that Arel felt he was able to work with Ray to stage all the work accordingly to avoid board outs.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty comprehensive planning. Like I said, I had to go through the commission for approval and everything like that. So we're in good shape as far as that goes.
Okay, will there have to be restaging every day, or can work be left open? I know that that's been an issue, say, with working on the HVAC systems, that they have to be closed up each day. Arella's back. Okay.
I don't know what happened. I lost internet connection and now I'm back. So let me bring that up. I apologize for that.
Oh, Arel, we were trying to field the question from Rich, which was about the staging of the work and whether we said that board outs would not be necessary, but Rich was just asking if restaging would have to occur each day to avoid that.
If what was that last part? If what would occur each day?
Yeah, will the work have to be closed up at the end of each day, or can work proceed? Can you leave your work half done?
No, I'm assuming either Ray or Derek is on the, no, basically we would have to, unless we can secure like a block area, we would not want to leave ceiling areas exposed. So that's part of the challenge. We have multiple zones. I think it's like up to 20 different zones. And so each contractor that's preparing their proposals right now has to limit their work or basically estimate the cost of work per zone. And so the contractors, before we even start work on this project, the contractors have to have all their materials on hand so that once we start, there aren't any delays, especially nowadays. You never know what items either are long lead or not. So once all the materials have been received by all the contractors, then we would initiate the work in the building, and we do it by zone. So zone 1, all contractors, general work, mechanical, and electrical have to work only in that zone first, complete that work, and then move to zone 2. What's advantageous, at least now, because of the low count in the jail, they are able to move inmates to different areas of the building to allow us to work in those areas, so we do not have to board anybody out. And so at this point, with the low numbers, that will not be required, any board outs.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, why don't you pick up where you got cut off? I think you were.
Yeah, so we were going over, I was going over the general work summary of improvements. I think I completed all of that. We're doing work on the exterior gate, I think near the bottom there of that first category, exterior gate, new operator, and intercom. And then we would go to mechanical, HVAC, and plumbing. We're replacing the kitchen walk-in cooler condensers, not the cooler itself, but the condenser. We would like to do the whole thing, but the budget doesn't allow that. I spoke about the grease trap. Also, we're putting in the kitchen a tankless water heater. That's the only part of the building that requires hotter water than the rest of the building by code. And so rather than heat all the water for the building up to a higher temperature, we're only using an instantaneous water heater for the kitchen. We're installing a water treatment system. That's something that we've wanted for many, many years. That's part of what is causing a lot of problems with the inmate fixtures. They tend to get plugged up because of mineral deposits in the controls and valves of the toilets, sinks, and showers. We are also replacing the HVAC grills on the detention side to make them less prone to where inmate can try to use them to either put something around it to commit suicide. We are replacing all the valves and controls for all of the detention fixtures, which is showers, toilets, and sinks. There's a lot of piping in the building, mostly close to the kitchen areas that has over the years is pitted, and we're getting leaks. So we're replacing all the copper piping in that portion of the building. New bathroom fixtures in the staff areas, as I indicated before, and doing several fire damper actuator replacements throughout the building in the ductwork.
I see Henry has a question.
Yes, you talked about the kitchen and the three square meals. How long will the kitchen be closed down, and where will you be getting the 3 square meals from?
Okay, so we're
right now we're speaking to a restaurant in Groton, and we would still have to meet the same minimum standards by the commission. So that plan also has to get approved regarding alternative meal plans. So I think Arel could probably speak better to the time frame of the kitchen getting shut down, but we have been speaking to a few different restaurants that have said that they could provide the meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then those options would have to get approved by the commission regarding nutrition facts.
Yeah, that involves the health department.
Right, and it also involves the health department.
Okay.
Yeah, correct. So
What will be the timing on the kitchen?
Well, that's what we will know better once we get proposals back from the contractors. As I indicated, all the contractors have to work together in each zone, and that is one of the zones is the kitchen. That does involve general work, plumbing, mechanical, and electrical. So we want to reduce the duration of that work, but it is inevitable that we will have to shut down the kitchen. So yes, we have spoken to the Sheriff's Department about providing, a backup for meals and doing that. Our hope is that by requiring that all contractors have all materials and equipment on hand, that we won't have any delays as far as lead time for any equipment. But at this point, I can't tell you that the duration of the work. As I said, we're not jackhammering the floors. Most of the plumbing work is along up above the floor, but on one portion of the kitchen. And that grease trap is going to be exterior work with tie-ins to the inside of the building. What's going to be most, it's going to take the most time is we've got to take down the entire ceiling, put a whole new grid, put a whole new ceiling, and then there's mechanical work above the ceiling and also the coolers. So my hope it's not more than a month, that we're talking just a few weeks.
Okay.
And anything else, Henry?
Nope, that's fine.
Okay. Go ahead, Rob.
And then the last category is the electrical, and really the big part on the electrical side is the generator. We're replacing the existing generator, which is original to the building, 36 years old. And along with that comes the transfer switch. So I'll show you pictures of what that entails, but that is one that's requires of all the work planned for the building, the most coordination, because we do not want there to be an extended outage in power. So we've been discussing that several times with the staff at Public Safety, Ray, and so it'll be multiple short-term outages, and by short-term, talking about half an hour max, but most of them would be half an hour. But there'd be multiple, and we would have to have 2 generators to allow us to do this. And I can explain once we get into the photos, a little bit of that process. The other electrical work is replacement of, or putting in LED lighting, but only in the areas where we're replacing ceilings. And it's not the majority of the areas in either correction or public or the sheriff's administration side. So it's wherever we're touching the ceilings, we're replacing the lighting. Our policy in the county is that when we're putting in new lighting, we would put in LED lighting. And then we're also doing security control system modifications. As a result of some of the work on doors that we're doing, those are electronically controlled as well as mechanical backup. So we have to do upgrades to the existing Black Creek system. So we have funding there to allow Black Creek to make those modifications. So when you look at all 3 of those categories, the total project budget is $3.75 million. And I'm showing ranges. And the reason we have ranges is we have several alternates in the proposals that we're expecting from the contractors, where if the base bid is lower, it will allow us to bring in some of these alternates. And so on the high end is those numbers that you see for each category. Any questions specifically on this before I go to the pictures? Where you can still ask questions there, but the pictures will give you an idea of what we're doing in each area.
Yeah, why don't you stop screen sharing? Mike Sigler has a question.
All right, hold on.
And we'll go back when we get to your pictures. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, first, what are you cooking that you have so much grease? That right there is a question. Don't we have a lot of other things to also do at the jail? I thought we were looking at a cost of like 6 or 7 million. And if so, why aren't we going for the whole mean, if we're going to bond out for this anyway, why are we kind of doing this and then bonding out again? Why don't we just kind of do it all at one time? Isn't that a good question?
I'd like to do that, but this was
Lisa. Why are we not? Just kidding.
Well, I can field this question. We are not bonding out for this, and this was the budget that was put together to.
That's right. Thanks.
To create the just the kind of health and safety related critical repairs that were needed to just move us forward to get us to a decision-making point about what to do long-term with the facility.
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Aurel, I had a couple questions. One is the footprint of the space going to change other than the holding cells? Are you moving any walls?
No.
Okay. And I know a big concern you've had over the years is that the access to the HVAC and plumbing systems are all within the detention side. Are we going to be addressing that issue in this work or no?
I wish, no. Unfortunately, in order to do that, we would have to really change the entire mechanical system, the way it's ducted. There are heat pumps. Basically, the jail built in 1986 has 48 heat pumps, and heat pumps are all above secure ceilings, which is not what the jails in the last 20 years have been designed or built that way. They've been built where all of those systems are on the non-secure side. So in order to do that, we would have to do the large project. All we're doing here that would help improve that is we're installing additional access doors in the secure ceiling so that we can better access the equipment that's above the ceiling. Right now, there are many heat pumps where we have to actually take a portion of the ceiling down just to get to them. And so we're installing probably, I think, 40 access doors throughout the ceiling areas to allow us to have better access to heat pumps.
Okay. Any other questions at this point, or should we go to pictures? It's like, let's go look at some pictures, Aurel, if we could.
All righty. Hold on. All right. Are you able to see that?
We see a screen with PSB-1, but no pictures.
I even did a test with staff here just to make sure
of course
this would not be a problem, and now it seems like it is. So still no picture.
Still just the file folder.
Aurel, do you see it on your screen?
Yes.
You may have to choose a different screen to be sharing.
Oh.
Yep. What if you stop sharing screen and then restart again? And maybe you can make a choice about.
Yeah, I think you can change or pick which.
Yeah, you might be sharing the wrong screen with us. So you can see the pictures, but we can't.
Are you able to see it now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So you see this is a wide angle view of the front of the building.
Yes.
Right. So we're doing almost nothing out here, but it's just a good view. And then Okay. So some of the structural improvements we're doing are minimal. It's usually, if you see my pointer, either, repointing of brick in various areas. As you can see here, it's coming apart. I don't know if you see the brick there.
Yes.
So we're doing work like that throughout the building. For the most part, there's nothing really that bad. This is the worst of it. It tends to be above door openings or window openings and lintels that we're repointing. We're doing some work on this vestibule, the doors and such, some improvements on the doors. The ceiling that you see there is original. It's a 4x4, which you can't find anymore, 4x4 ceiling tile. So we're redoing this ceiling with a 2x4 ceiling grid and replacing the ceiling tiles there. This in the center of the room is a magnetometer that was put in there recently once the centralized arraignment was set up here at the building. This is the civil office. So the public that comes in for pistol permits and other business that they have to interact with on the civil side, they come here. This glass is the only in this entire lobby area that is not bullet resistant. And so we are replacing that with bullet resistant glazing. It's something that's been brought up for many years by staff at the public safety building. So we're replacing that and also allowing transactions to happen through, whoops, sorry about that. So that it's not pass through right here. You can actually stick anything through the bottom of the glass. So it wouldn't be, they wouldn't be able to pass through things directly, but there would be, it would drop over before they would be able to pick it up on the other side. And then to the left of that, just above the defibrillator, we would have to relocate that. Any packages could be put in so that they'd be secure, put it there, lock it, and then the other side would be able to retrieve those packages. This is on the Sheriff's Administration side. We're replacing the ceilings that you see here. Those are all original. We're replacing the ceilings. That's an alternate. Flooring, it stays in place. As you can see, our cleaner stripped and waxed them probably a few months ago. It looks brand new. I've indicated in the past the space constraints that we have on both sides, on the Sheriff's Administration side, but also on the correction side. On the admin side, this is their kitchenette, which they will be losing probably within the next month because they need office space for staff that they've hired. And so this is going away and this area will be an office. This is the centralized arraignment court here. This is the only conference room that exists the Sheriff's admin side. And whoops. And although we did a wonderful job, our carpenter, in creating this bench, it's taking room away from the conference room. But now that they've lost that kitchenette, we're actually going to put a kitchenette right here along the wall so that they have a kitchenette on that side. Here in the hallways, all the work that we'll be doing is just the ceiling replacement as an alternate. We're replacing carpeting in the offices, and that's all we're doing in the offices also as an alternate. Some of these carpets are 20 years old. Ceilings here. This is the entrance that the road patrol and employees come in from the parking area. To the left, this door to the left is the men's locker room. So we're doing very little work there. We're replacing this counter and sink. Those are the only fixtures that we're replacing there, and also the ceilings there. No work here. But the reason I'm showing you this is that door to the left was their evidence storage room, and we have converted it because they are lacking space for staffing into offices for 3, possibly 4 road patrol. This is the kitchen. So we're replacing the ceilings that you see here. And then because we're touching the ceilings, we're putting in LED lighting. There's mechanical work above the ceiling. To the left are the coolers, and the coolers are remaining in place, but the condensers that provide the cooling are being replaced. Those are original to the building. And then on the far back wall, get a close up here. Those are the coolers. So this area above here is the condensers that are being replaced. So this black box that you see at the bottom is a temporary grease trap that if it's not emptied every 28 days, it overflows. It used to be below the slab here. We weren't going to jackhammer it and redo it. So what we're going to be doing is putting in a grease trap, much larger capacity underground on the other side of this wall, and then tying into the piping on the kitchen side. So it will not require any jackhammering of the kitchen floor, to thereby limiting the downtime of the kitchen and the improvements that we're making. There's a better view of what we had to do temporarily.
Aurel, are there some special concerns about going through an outside wall from the kitchen in terms of security?
No, it'll all be underground. So we're basically going to be tying in from below grade. So there will be a little bit of opening up of the floor by this drain here. But otherwise, no. So no, there are no issues because it's all going to be below grade where we're tying into the grease trap.
Okay, Henry has a question.
Yeah, Aurel, if you did jackhammer the floor, would the amount of time that the grease trap would work, would it be significantly longer?
No, it would be the same. In fact, this is a much better approach because that way, when they do have to empty it, they can do it from the outside by having it outside and underground, which is what they do these days for facilities like these. We have another one over by the garage, much smaller, but it's an outdoor underground. So yeah, the recommendation was to have it outdoor underground. It is more accessible if there are issues in the future, whereas I said this one is not.
Thanks.
And this is just a picture of where it would go. There's a shed back here, so it would be basically close to where that shed sits. On the other side of the wall is the kitchen there. This was really the only one where we're trying to address some of the kind of space issues. This is the sole and only holding cell in the building, and it's a large one. And so we're basically partitioning this into three almost equal size holding cells, each of which will have a toilet and sink. And this was, we had not intended to do this initially, but it was something that was brought forward by the Sheriff's Department, Ray and Derek, and we were able to design it in and include it as part of this project, especially now that we've got the centralized arraignment going on in this facility. I indicated that we're making improvements to the staff area. So here we're replacing the ceiling, and you can see how they've kind of jerry-rigged on the top that diffuser grill. So that's all being replaced. And then also replacing the flooring and painting the walls. This is Ray's office. He's getting new carpeting. And so carpeting throughout that area that is, most of that is over 20 years old. In the dorm area, they have the shower area that's being redone. We're eliminating the post showers. Those have been problematic for many, many years. And so what we're doing is putting all the shower heads along the perimeter of that shower area. And it will provide better access for us if we have to do any repairs. It would only take down one shower versus the entire showers here in the central post, We're also replacing the wall finishes, the floor. We're removing this step here. It's a tripping hazard and it doesn't meet ADA. So we're removing that, replacing ceilings, and these are the exhaust vents. They were severely undersized. And so there's a lot of steam when inmates are showering that really goes throughout that dorm area and has rusted the ceilings in the past. So we're increasing the exhaust in that bathroom. And that's really the extent of the work in this dorm. It's just really in that shower area and the exhaust. We're not doing any fixtures. These sinks here are fairly new within the last 5 years. No other work in that area. This is a close-up of that shower area. And this is as you go down the hall towards, from the medium, at the very end is the corrections post that's being replaced. We're doing here ceiling. The ceilings that you see here, this on the ceiling here is an access door. We're putting several of these throughout the ceiling areas so that we can access the 40-some heat pumps that are above the ceiling. This space, probably either Jen or Derek, no, it's booking now, but it was not always booking. And so booking, I would think from what I know in the plans that we've gone over with Labella, tends to be closer to the intake side of the building. This is not. This is halfway down that hallway that I just showed you a picture of, but they basically tried to make the best use of the existing space. So this room here, what is in between two cell blocks, on the left is block A block and then B, but they've created this booking area where inmates, or when they first arrive at the jail, they come in here and are processed, get clothing and such before they are assigned to wherever block they need to go to. The way it's set up, since it wasn't originally created for booking, the shower bathroom does not work. First of all, you have to step up to get into it. So we are basically putting that shower area, sink, toilet in this space here, and then kind of reconfiguring the use or where this is in the room. And as part of the improvements that are an alternate is, since you have this A block here on the left, right now, they would have to bring inmates in through the booking area to get them into the A block, which is not a problem, but it is a problem when they are processing individuals. So one idea that was requested that we've designed in as an alternate is to put in a door from the outside into those block areas. One here where my pointer is, and then for block B over in this area. So those are alternates. As you go further down the hallway, we're replacing ceiling tiles here. All of these exterior doors, we're replacing the frames and the doors because they've rusted out more so as you see them from the outside. This is once we get to the corner before you go down towards maximum. This post is being replaced to a 2-person post, and the ceilings are being replaced as well. Oops. So from this post, you have the trustee area, and the shower there needs to be replaced. We've had a lot of problems with that shower, so we're basically replacing that and have it so it's built into the space. It's not a step up into the shower. And from that post, you can also see the only program space that they have on the correction side, which are one of the improvements in the large project that the option showed more program space to provide the inmates at the jail opportunities for a lot of the programming that exists. So this room is less than 400 square feet. No improvements envisioned for that space. This is the hallway down the maximum wing. We're replacing ceilings here and adding a lot more of these access doors for access to heat pumps. Then we go to the outside. Every exterior door is being replaced, the frames and doors. They've rusted out over the years. We've done what we've been able to by just welding, stainless steel, kick plates and such to control the rusting, but it's to the point that we need to replace the entire doors. So there are a total of 6 exterior doors. This is the one that is the intake from into the corrections. This is the kitchen, I think the kitchen door. This is one off of the dorm area that is being replaced, and then there's 2 or 3 others. We're also replacing the gate operators. Those jam up a lot, so we're replacing the mechanism operators for the gate and then the intercom. Indicated that on the electrical side, the big ticket there was the generator. This is the generator room here, those double doors. This is, as I said, original generator, 36 years old. So we're replacing the generator, and all of this electricals is the transfer gear that's being replaced. And then as part of that replacement, we have to upgrade the electrical panels that are in the mechanical room here. And so I indicated for the replacement of the generator, we're going to actually have to have 2 additional portable generators to minimize the number of outages. Otherwise, it would be a long outage, which would require boarding out the entire correction side. So in order to eliminate that need, we're having several miniature outages that we would coordinate closely with the Ray and his staff for the best time of the day. But it would be multiple, and we would have 2 generators to allow us to do that. We're replacing this electrical panel, these 2 electrical panels into one. This was the piping on the correction side is above the ceiling, so a lot of this piping, the city water, the hot water supply would be replaced on the correction side. And I talked about instantaneous hot water heater. So right now we heat all the water and then send it over to the entire building. But for the kitchen, we have to boost it up. And so rather than heat it here and then experience a lot of heat losses as it's being sent over to the kitchen, we're just putting in a tankless on-demand water heater. And that's the last slide.
Okay. Well, thank you, Aurel. Questions and comments? And if you want to stop sharing, I can see people. I guess I would just remind the committee members, we, in talking about our priorities, what we want to try to do is think about functionality that we want to have at the jail beyond the current conditions, and the current conditions, including this new work. So that's our brief to ourselves. And I think we should probably set aside some time, perhaps at our next meeting, to really think about what those could be. But if anybody has thoughts to get us started today, happy to hear them. Okay, I know everybody's thinking hard. All right. Anything further on the jail conditions and the work? We're good? Okay, let's move on to Sheriff's Office. Derek, Jen?
Thanks, Rich. Aurel, thanks for going over that with everybody. I think a lot of the legislators have toured the jail at this point, and quite frankly, I think the pictures don't even do it justice. The place is in really, really rough shape. And I got to say, I'm slightly embarrassed to have those pictures shown publicly because there's a lot of work that needs to be done there that is way long overdue. Just a couple quick things to add. I know, Rich, you and I and Lance had an email conversation about the new proposal to start doing parole hearings in a court rather than at the jail like we currently do, and the impact that could have on now requiring our COs or deputies to transport these parolees to who knows where. I was made aware today that space has been made or accommodated at the city court in Ithaca to perhaps do these, which is better than taking them miles away and spending, taking up a lot of our staffing resources to do this. I still have a lot of concerns, and Lance, please jump in on this if you have another take, but we just created a cap court at the sheriff's office, and I still do not understand how it makes any sense that we can't hold these hearings in the jail or at the cap court. And instead, we now have to take parolees out of the jail and transport them down to the city of Ithaca, find parking, supervise the hearing, and then bring them back. That makes absolutely no sense to me. I don't know yet if there's anything that can be done about that, but it's something I think that really should be taken into consideration and looked at.
I would say this is on the agenda later, but we could certainly talk about it now because it's 6 of one, half dozen of another. Why don't we jump in and Lance, why don't you go ahead and we'll do this issue and your report right now.
I can, I can address, let me first address the sheriff.
Lance, if I could ask a favor, if you could just back up for everybody who hasn't seen the email exchange we circulated, just give an overview of what the issue is.
Oh, sure. The issue is under less is more. There was a requirement in the law that parole hearings can no longer be held in jails as they have been for years, that they're required to be held either in a courthouse or a doc's parole facility, which means courthouses because parole doesn't, have those facilities really. On that, the concern that the email exchange about was initially docs or parole, it said, well, we're going to use Delaware County and Norwich for these locations, which meant the sheriff's department would be transporting to those, probably doing multiple transports, and assigned counsel would also be paying attorneys to be going there. They've added Cortland, but it's still an issue. It would have been an issue. I know Broome County, for instance, just had to send people to Delaware County this week for parole hearing. So if city court's available, that's good news. To some degree, it means we're not traveling out of county. In terms of the cap court, I'll try to look at this and raise it because I, frankly, personally would not have an issue with that. The problem is the law says it has to be in a courthouse or parole office. Now, not a jail. I think technically we could try to make an argument that the cap court is a court facility, not inside the jail, and try to loophole it that way. I mean, I would have no issue with that. I'm not sure how the issue may be parole. OCA doesn't have to be involved in this decision, I don't think. If they can do that interpretation, if that's going to save, certainly that's going to save the jail, or the sheriff some transport issues, which is a cost issue. And I think for the most part, it doesn't matter to my attorneys. Frankly, it's easier to park at the jail than downtown. So it, that's a solution I'm happy to try to work with and try to see if we can get it resolved. The only block may be because of how the law reads. They may tell us, no, you don't meet the language. But
yeah, Lance.
Yeah.
Just to edit what you said, please don't say park at the jail. It's parking at the public safety court facility.
Yeah.
Yes. And it does seem like we should write a letter.
Yeah.
To ask for this clarification and indicate the logistic issues and the cost issues related to just driving people all over the state. This seems pretty obvious.
Yeah, and yeah. I think that would have to go to, I can shoot you the name. The district office for parole is in Elmira. So it'd have to go to the head of their district office. I suspect he's going to kick it up the chain, but we should probably also send it to Porter Kirkwood, who's the kind of chief administrative official for the 6 judicial districts, just so they're in the loop, aware of it, and see if we can get this defined as a court, a courthouse, court facility, and if that would qualify. I'll reach out to other chief defenders. We have a listserv and see, because there are a lot of CAP facilities similar to ours, and see if anything like that's occurring anywhere else in the state that we can use as an add-in. Because frankly, these hearings, just for people who aren't aware of this, they don't involve one of our judges. They involve an administrative law judge from the Department of Parole. They involve a defense attorney, a court stenographer, and the parole representative. So it's a small and frankly, any kind of conference room can hold these hearings. So that would meet the CAP court would meet the needs there. I think so. That's a potential solution. I mean, it's good news that we're at least a city court in county, but I think, I see no reason. I'm happy to see if we can get it to the CAP, because that doesn't affect frankly, there's and it's outside the jail. The reason, I think the thinking was why they moved it from jails to courthouses was now you're going to have a number of releasees who are coming in for revocation hearings who are not incarcerated. And that's why they moved it outside the jail, but that's not inside the jail. So that may still be acceptable.
Yeah. And if my memory serves me, Lance, there is an issue as well, I think, in that a lot of these hearings get bumped over. Is that correct? That the ALJ comes down and does as many hearings as he or she can cover, but if they don't reach them, they sit for another 30 days. So you could send somebody to another county, transport them, and then their case wouldn't get heard. Is that true?
Well, you're correct. That's how it always has been. The new law says they have to hold them in 30 days. I think it was aimed at trying to prevent that, people being carried over for months. That's occurred elsewhere. But you still could have that occurring, and the ALJ could say, I'm done here. And if we're in, Delaware County, and say, you all come back in 2 days, and we'll carry on, which is probably going to give Derek heartburn to hear that. So I mean, you still have that potential. Because they can only hold, while it says they have to hold them in 30 days, you can only hold, if you have a real evidentiary hearing that's contentious, that can eat up an entire morning or afternoon. Most revocation hearings that occur are pretty formulaic, in the sense that most of the time, the defense attorney, the parole representative, because a lot of these revocations are for better or worse, pretty much a slam dunk for the Department of Parole. They've worked out a resolution, and then you're trying to convince the administrative law judge to go along with the sanction. But if you have a real hearing with witnesses and so forth, you're right, Rich, that can eat up an entire, and that's happened here when they're in the jail. That's eaten up the entire day. So everyone else gets held over. So you're correct. That's a concern, potentially.
Well, I guess I'd ask for comment from committee. Does it make sense to write a letter? Is that the consensus? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Lance, I would be happy to help with that, or Derek. I don't know who best to have the letter come from, perhaps from all three of us or from us and the committee. I don't know.
I think a letter would be great, and I'd be willing to have it from all three of us. I hate to wait for that process to go through. I was actually thinking of starting to make phone calls tomorrow. I can certainly hold off on that, and we can draft
I think
a letter.
phone calls are fine and a letter.
Okay.
Yeah. I agree. I'll Sheriff, I'll be reaching out as well. And
okay.
I think this is one of the issues because part of the problem is parole has not been active in implementing. So they're catching up, trying to get caught up. So I think the kind of the squeaky wheel will get the attention. It's one of those situations.
Yeah, so and I think maybe if the three of us can touch base via email tomorrow, if we get anywhere or even reach somebody and keep each other apprised, I think that would be great. I would just hate to see this completely reverse all the hard work we put into this CAP program, because it's effectively diminishing the effects we're having on that. And I'll add, we've done well over 60 CAP arraignments since January 4th, 3rd or 4th. That's more than the undersheriff and I even expected. And if you equate that to how many staffing hours that's returning people to road patrol, that's pretty immense. So I would hate to negate that in any way.
Absolutely. And, I would note that we were strong, Tompkins County, we were strong supporters of less is more. That parole reform, I believe, has been long overdue. So in the greater scheme of things, it's good that it's finally been addressed in some manner, but this is an unintended consequence that I don't think benefits the parolees in any real way, and it really creates issues otherwise. So, yeah. So anything further on that issue? Okay, Sheriff, why don't you pick up your report otherwise?
Okay, I just have one more thing to add, and I'm only bringing this to your attention. I was made aware through the Sheriff's Association of a bill that's in the process of going through assembly right now. It's co-authored by our assembly woman, and what it calls for is doing away with all revenue sources from inmate phone calls. I don't have a position with it either way. If you remember 2.5, 3 years ago, I was able to negotiate those phone call charges and basically cut them in half. I think it was 55% we reduced them by. It's a very expensive phone system. They're not simply just regular phones that inmates call out on. They're all programmed. They're recorded, and they provide a lot of features that we use in our investigations. The way I read this, and honestly, I just glossed over it at this point, it would require each inmate to have 90 minutes per day of phone use, completely free. And I only bring this up because obviously if it does go forward, we will lose that revenue line, which is much smaller than it used to be. But we would also more than likely pick up the cost of those phone calls. It's not astronomical. It's about $3,800 roughly a month in revenue. But again, I just bring that to your attention just in case that does go forward, that we'll have to talk about that budget line.
Okay, Henry.
Sheriff, does the bill state that the sheriff's office would have to pick up the cost?
Yeah, it looked to me like it was clearly going to be an unfunded mandate. And I'll be honest, again, I didn't go through it line by line. I read the synopsis by the Sheriff's Association and glossed over it real quick. That's just the highlights of it. I would be more than happy to share with the committee what I got in the email, and you can read it for yourself.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. I see you have a resolution, authorization for budget adjustment of stop DWI reserves balance to 2022 budget. Doc ID 10755. Could I get somebody moving that? Veronica, Mike seconds. Okay. Do you want to just speak to this for a minute, Sheriff? Could you tell us what's the difference between a stop DWI car?
Yeah, actually, if you don't mind, I'll let Jen speak to this, and she's our DWI coordinator, and I'll let her explain it, but certainly.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, thank you. We were able to purchase a hybrid white Ford Explorer last year, and our thought was, we wanted to come up with something special to use it for, whether it be parades or just even a school car. And then I got thinking as a stop DWI coordinator that it would be kind of nice to maybe come up with a new graphic design, use this vehicle for traffic and stop DWI enforcement, as well as more community engagement efforts. Stop DWI is kind of transitioning their approach, and they're trying to use more of an engagement educational approach rather than solely enforcement. That's why it went from crackdown grants to high visibility engagement campaigns. That's where the name change came from. So as a stop DWI coordinator, we're tasked with coming up with ways we can engage the community more and provide more awareness on the risks of impaired driving. So this was one idea I came up with. This person, whoever would be assigned this car, would be responsible for going to school presentations and whatnot. So I'm trying to think of a way to outfit it, because it needs a computer, an LPR, graphic designs, and with patrol vehicles that adds up to around 25 to 30,000. So talking to finance, I looked to see how much reserve funds were in the stop DWI account, which are not county funds. They come from fines that are collected through DWI. Found that we had sufficient funds to outfit this car. So I submitted a proposal to the Stop DWI Foundation and got their approval to use the funds to outfit this vehicle, but needed to put the resolution forward to move the money from the reserve funds into an expense line in the sheriff's account to make those necessary purchases to outfit the vehicle.
Okay, questions or comments? Are we ready to vote? I'll call the roll. Travis? I'll take that as a yes. Henry?
Yes.
Veronica?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay, very good. Sheriff, anything else?
Anything else? No, I think we're good. Thanks, Rich.
About your polar,
All right.
your polar plunge next week.
Oh, yeah, Deanna wants me to bring up that our polar plunge is next week, and Jen has conned me into jumping into the lake. She's going to bring an AED with her just in case my heart stops, but
I think that's a good idea.
That my heart stops? Is that what you're saying?
Well, know that you're jumping in the lake and that you have the AED. I think those are prudent. Both. Okay, well, good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Deanna, you brought it up. Are you jumping in?
I'm not a part of the official team, but will be there in support of the work. So if the sheriff's office has an additional spot, I'd be happy to do so. And Travis, I will call you later.
I take that as a firm commitment.
Yes.
You're jumping in the lake.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask a curiosity
Yeah.
question or two, or if you have to move on?
No.
Just looking through the sheriff's report, and I'm interested in this training about responding to domestic violence incidents, just because that seems like a hot topic with the Reimagining Public Safety. And also in the ride along I did, it feels like it was a long time ago, but it was more recently than the last public safety meeting. What'd you learn? I know you personally might not have gone.
Yeah, go ahead.
So how the domestic violence training came about is when Derek and I took office in 2019, Derek and I both have a really good working relationship with the Advocacy Center. So we reached out to them, talked about how we could improve our services. And one of the things I identified is just doing more frequent training within the departments to kind of build that working relationship and the knowledge and just refresh deputies' minds of what support systems the Advocacy Center has. And in working in that training, we identified it would be helpful to bring in DSS, CPS, and the district attorney's office to make it more of a holistic, comprehensive training. So we are able to conduct that training as a mandatory in-service training for all road patrol deputies in 2019, with the intention of doing it every year after that. Obviously, COVID hit, and unfortunately, we weren't able to do it in 2020 or 2021. We kind of all got back together and recognized the importance of this training, specifically because more than half of our department has less than 2 years on. So again, we got all the stakeholders, the Advocacy Center, the District Attorney's Office, DSS, and CPS. Well, we arranged the training syllabus, and we're able to, again, make that a mandatory in-service training for all of our road patrol deputies to conduct. And we plan on doing that annually. It's very well received. And it's just nice to be able to work with the partnership. In the same light, working with the Advocacy Center, they reached out again and said, we'd really like to do some more training around strangulation investigations regarding sexual assault and domestic violence. So right now, I'm working with the Advocacy Center and the District Attorney's Office, as well as one of the physician's assistants at CMC and the Emergency Medical Department, and developing that training. And we're hoping to host that training in September and open it up to all law enforcement agencies.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay. And actually, if I can put you on the spot, Veronica, do you have any thoughts on your ride along?
Oh, sure. Well, I shared this at the last full legislature meeting, but first I'm really thankful to especially the two folks I rode along with and the department as a whole for hosting me. It was informative, good to see a bunch of things. It was a fairly quiet night. I went on a Friday night, like almost 4 weeks ago. But we did, it's already getting a little fuzzy. I think the main point that I brought up at the legislature meeting was how much mental health is a huge part of most of the calls, or most of the person involved calls that they responded to, according to, the tiny little bit of what I saw, but also what, I guess mainly what Sergeant Davenport, one of the people I rode along with, was saying. And I'm not counting like we stopped to pull a dead deer out of the road, but the things with people. And so it just, I'm really glad that you're collaborating with other agencies that work like kind of in that realm. And I think some of their experiences point to like the need for just much more mental health support, like preventive ideally, but crisis support also to support the community. And also correct me if I'm wrong, but like your department at your work, so you're not going back to the same people for the same calls over and over again.
Yeah, thank you for doing that, Sheriff. And
yeah, absolutely. And thank you for taking part in that. I know it's not easy sometimes for people to step into a patrol car and see that stuff firsthand, but it means a lot to the deputies and us for sure that you take the time to do that. So thank you.
Okay. Anything further from the sheriff? Ready? Matt asked to be excused this meeting. So he will not be giving a report today. They said if there was a problem, we'd blame him because he's not here. But so far that's been okay. Department of Emergency Response. Michael, welcome. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. Clicked too fast, but good afternoon, everybody. Rich, the only thing I have is really just a thank you to yourself, Veronica, and Mike for the time that you afforded myself and the dispatch team to come and observe in a dispatch center. It really went a long way. The feedback from the team has been fantastic, and frankly, you did quite a bit to help boost their morale, just showing an interest in what they do. So I just wanted to say thank you very much.
Oh, I think the thanks go the other way, Mike. That was really a useful, informative visit. Yeah, and Faith Favre and I are going to have a call tomorrow. I know that she made it up there with Laura Lewis.
Yes, with the mayor. Yes,
their visit was the same. So
great. Thank you.
Great.
Yes. One issue, while we have a moment here, Michael, if you could just explain is staging, because we had a conversation about that, and I'd like to make sure the other committee members understand this issue on an emergency call.
Absolutely. Well, there's a number, sometimes staging can mean many different things. So first and foremost, staging is a term that we use to have emergency responders stage a block away from an incident that might pose a risk or safety concern to emergency responders. So we might ask fire or EMS resources to stage a block away or to stage at a safe location if we believe that there is a safety concern until law enforcement arrives on scene. Another example of why an agency might be asked to stage is if an incident commander who is on scene of an incident asks us to have them stage, perhaps maybe because like of a chemical spill, and they just want to make sure those responding resources aren't going into the scene from an unsafe direction. And another reason that we might stage resources is if we had an event, say like a mass casualty event, and we needed multiple resources from all over the county or maybe multiple counties where we have units staged in a designated staging area until those resources are needed on the scene. So what we've been asked to do is to work with our EMS community to sort of really drill down on when we should have them staged, if based on the type of call that they're being dispatched to, and that is currently underway, and we are partnering with our EMS community to address that specific type of staging.
Any questions? Okay, well, thank you, Michael. Next up, Department of Probation and Community Justice. Dan, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It was brought to my attention that a resolution submitted by my department that was supposed to go to the Public Safety Committee was actually inadvertently sent to the full legislature. And I believe it was approved, but I wanted to bring it up here. It's resolution number 2022-26, which is Leg File 10670. It was the receipt of $3,038 from Department of Criminal Justice Services for Leandra's Law Ignition Interlock Administration that's done by this department. I apologize for it being sent to the full ledge instead of this committee. But
okay, was this last meeting?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay, that's okay. Sometimes those things happen, and I believe it passed at the last meeting. So
we don't usually turn away money. So
yeah, I don't think anybody has a problem with that. We just need to catch it in the future.
I apologize. Thank you for that.
Not a problem.
So we've been doing quite a bit of training over here. I did want to mention last meeting, we were kind of running short on time, but I did have 2 officers who completed the crisis intervention training with the Sheriff's Department. I wanted to thank Derek and Jen for allowing us to be a part of that. I think those officers could be useful in the event that having them trained could be useful in an event that the person who's in crisis is a probationer, someone that we supervise on probation. So it's good for them to know how the team operates. We've had several people complete mental health first aid training. Also, interestingly enough, just had a couple people complete dark web training, which ties in with your opening. It was a training out in Buffalo about cryptocurrency and use, criminal actors' use of the dark web, which we do see occasionally here in the past, but we haven't had anyone who really was specifically trained in that area. So now we have 2, an officer and an administrator who understand the use of the dark web a lot better than we did before. So that helps us in our use of technology monitoring, which we utilize with a lot with sex offenders or high value financial crimes where we're doing technology monitoring with offenders. So it was very helpful. Also wanted to mention I've spoken with Mr. Stitley. I appreciated him connecting me with Chief Harlan McEwen about the ES chat feature that will be coming up that could be utilized for probation officers communicating with each other as well as with law enforcement in different scenarios. Chief McEwen said that he believes my entire department could be set up to do this for less than $1,800 for a year, which is cheaper than the price of one two-way radio. So we'll be exploring that a little further and potentially joining into ES chat with all the probation officers and peace officers in the department. We've also wanted to recognize Gladys Larson. She has applied for the Transforming Juvenile Probation Certificate Program in Georgetown. It's sort of a follow-up to the Reducing Racial and Ethnic Disparities in Juvenile Justice training that was set up by David Sanders in 2019. So there's a team of people who will be interviewed from Tompkins County who will be interviewed tomorrow by Georgetown in hopes of being accepted into that program. So we're quite excited to pick up where we left off before COVID sort of disrupted the plan that was going on with reducing racial and ethnic disparities. We really are trying to focus a lot on the impacts on youth and how we serve the youth this year. I think there's been starting to be a growing recognition that the youth in the community have been really negatively impacted by COVID, and we want to connect with them and try to support them and steer them away from negative activities. So been a lot of buy-in from the entire family court unit. They've been wonderful, and we are actively participating in trainings in regard to that. So we're also going to be seeking to be included in a superintendent's conference meeting with all the school leaders from Tompkins County school districts, so we can speak about our goals and what we can offer to steer kids away from the system through our Strengthening Our Students program, which involves dealing with kids at the early stages of them starting to show behavioral issues rather than before it reaches the PINS or JD level where they're going to have court contact. So those are some of the things we're working on, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Dan. As a follow-up, Michael, I think you told me, but I'm trying to remember, when do we anticipate the rollout of ES Chat?
We're hoping to actually have some of it rolling out next month. We're just waiting for a few more pieces of hardware to come in. And, at that point, we're already starting to issue out some of the seats to some of the law enforcement partners. So we're really close. Right now, the only thing holding us up is some of the supply chain issues that are just preventing us from getting some cables that connect some of our hardware.
Okay, thank you.
And once we get it up and running, we plan to do a demonstration for the committee.
Oh, that would be excellent. Yes. And Dan, I'm very glad you're interested in this. The legislature put extra money into the budget for subscriptions, specifically so agencies like yours or departments like yours could participate. So I'm really hopeful it's about a real benefit.
It sounds like it will be. It sounds like it'd be really helpful in enhancing our safety when we're doing field work, but also could be used internally in the building in the case of an incident here, so that we can communicate more quickly with each other. So we're looking forward to it. And my last point, if I can share my screen, I want to share a book report.
Yes, please.
Can you see my screen? Or am I doing it wrong?
We can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
This Red Notice by Bill Browder. That's not my moniker. I didn't write it. Phenomenal book if you want to get some insight into what's going on in Ukraine and the Russian situation with the Russians' control of oil over there and some of the lengths that they go to. It is a page turner and a half. I think I read the whole book in maybe 48 hours. But I read it a few years ago, but it's worth a read if you're looking for a good book.
Red Notice, thank you. And by the way, I brought in my copy of American Kingpin. If anybody wants to borrow it, first person that asks gets it. I did have a question, Dan, on page 29 of the agenda on your monthly snapshot.
Yes.
Your numbers went down pretty substantially because drug court felony went from 29 to 0. And I was curious, is something happening there?
I believe the information did not get entered.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
there has not been any substantial change in our felony drug court numbers.
Okay. Thanks.
I'll look into that and get back to you. I'll make sure it's corrected for next month.
All right. Okay. I just was wondering if there was something big going on.
We're good, but we're not that good.
Okay. Next up is assigned counsel program. Lance, welcome.
Hello again, Rich. A couple of things. I guess I can start with, we have 2 resolutions actually, and I can tie into my report. The first one is the resolution that actually comes from the advisory board and indigent representation, which is my department's advisory board. They submitted seeking, again, a statement from the legislature and a support in assigned counsel fees. I won't.
Yeah. Why don't we put that on the floor and then maybe you could talk about it just
for
a minute.
Okay.
So this is a resolution in support for an increase in assigned counsel fees, doc ID 10789. And could I get a motion to put that on the floor? Veronica moves, Travis seconds. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Lance.
This is, and the legislature had passed a resolution, somewhat similar resolution, generally in support a couple of years ago. Rich, you may recall. This was put forward. It's a critical issue for assigned counsel programs to get an increase in the hourly rates. The hourly rates haven't changed since 2004. We're bleeding our experienced attorneys, one to institutional providers like DSS, DA's office, out of county departments as well. We're also losing attorneys who are in firms in town, and other attorneys too are cutting back on the assigned counsel cases number they take, and doing more retained work simply because they can't afford at the rates to carry cases as many as they have been. So it's critical to kind of continue. We've maintained a high, in terms of quality, a high level of representation, all mandated representation in family court, in the criminal cases. This a little further background. The 4 bullet points they put on there come from model draft legislation that's at the legislature in terms of calling for an increase there. Why I think this is critical timing to pass this is the draft legislation calls that any increase in rates be covered by the state, not by the county, so that they don't. Right now, assigned counsel fees are basically an unfunded mandate that are dropped on the counties. Our budget, my department budget is a little over $2 million. And I think about 1.8 or so of that are attorney's fees. The draft legislation that this calls for supporting mandates any increase be carried by the state. That protects the counties to get this needed increase. I can tell you, and I think a couple of reasons why this is very timely is we've learned the state assembly one house budget and the state senate one house budget at this point tentatively include $210 million they're setting aside to cover the assigned counsel any 18B rate increases. You also have a lawsuit in New York City in Manhattan County, suing the county and the state over the 18B rates and seeking a increase. They're actually seeking an injunction for an immediate increase. The danger with that lawsuit, it doesn't designate who should pay for it. It just says increase. So we know how the state likes to address those issues. So I think this supports the need of my department to increase. These are desperately needed to maintain quality representation, these rate increases, and I think it continues support, encourages the legislature to keep that money there. They kind of tentatively allocated and push that legislation through to kind of resolve this issue once and for all on that.
Lance, I'm not sure you had gotten into the meeting at the point. We did have a public speaker speak in support of this resolution, by the way.
Okay, no, I missed it. I was up visiting Ray, and then I got the travel time getting down here.
Just so you know. Any
you.
questions or comments from the committee? No? I guess I would speak. I had mentioned that, I did assign counsel work many, many years ago, and the rates were $25 out of court and $40 in court at that time. There was a raise, I think, in 2004, but this is long overdue. I really think this is necessary to make sure we're getting adequate, competent defense for our people accused of crimes in our community. So I'm firmly in favor of this. Any further comments, questions? Okay. I'll call the roll. Henry.
A definite yes.
Travis.
Yes.
Veronica.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay. And that'll go to the legislature this evening, I believe. We then have budget adjustment assigned counsel, doc ID 10762. And could I get a motion and a second on that? Mike moves, Travis seconds. Thank you. Any questions or comments on this? Right, you're getting some computer equipment, Lance?
Correct. This is designed to replace our computers are aging out in our department. And this is, I can just point out, this is an indirect benefit of the state money we're getting our grants that I talk about sometimes. What we're able to do is, we can't supplant a lot of our costs, but we're able to use that state money as a grant to pay for these computers rather than having to come to the county itself for that cost. So you're seeing our grants kind of at work here, and hence the budget adjustment.
Okay. All right. Anything further? Are we ready to vote? I'll call the roll. Henry?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
Veronica?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. All right, so that passes. And okay, is there anything more from assigned counsel, Lance?
No, I see Henry has his hand up, so I'll.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Henry.
Yes, I quickly read a newspaper today, and they said that Governor Hochul is gonna prepare bail reform, just despite the current status of it. Did you hear anything about this, Lance? And do you know anything about the battle that's coming up?
No, I can tell you from myself, all the work, because the chief defender spends a fair amount of time lobbying at the legislature, that the legislative leaders have been pretty firm and adamant that they're not looking to look at reforming or doing any more on bail reform this year. I know, I think the new mayor of New York City had been making some comments, but I also note that after he had a private meeting with the legislative leaders, he came out and said bail reform's good. We're as good as it is. So I think that kind of suggests that everything I guess to cut to the chase, everything we're hearing in meetings is they're like, the legislative leaders are like, we're not going there this year. So
yeah, and that's what they said. They said that the battle will be between Hochul and the legislative leaders.
Yeah.
And I was wondering whether any words had been said.
No, this is a little surprising because I haven't heard anything. I didn't see the news story.
Yeah, I think it was in the Albany newspaper
yeah,
today.
Yeah, there's been nothing, you know, when you're involved, kind of you hear, you know, the staff, you may talk about rumblings or something they've heard, but there's been nothing. So I don't know where this came from at all. And, you know,
Okay.
I think given the way people in the legislature have been talking, it'll be interesting to see it because they don't seem interested in, for better or worse, the new governor. I'm not sure her political power versus the legislative leaders. I don't think she seems like a more decent human being, frankly, than our former governor. So I'm not sure she has the intimidation factor. That'll probably get me in trouble with
Yes,
somebody. So yeah, I probably should have thought about it before I said that in a public meeting, but I think that's kind of the reality of that's not a negative comment about our current governor. I think more maybe a comment on our prior governor.
And also politically, maybe she's moving to the right and trying to get some votes.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard anything, but I'll if I can find out anything, I'll pass it on to the committee.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you, Lance. All right, we've come to the end of our agenda. Is there any other business before the committee? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Mike moves, Veronica seconds, all in favor? We're good. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
And Arel, thanks for helping us today.